We normally start the chat with three simple questions, like how old are you?
Wow.
Where are you from?
Bit early for that, mate.
Yeah, well, and how did you get involved in DJing?
Right.
Start from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Start from the hard one first. How old am I? I am 36. I started DJing at 27. I went to New York. I think you covered this. Once upon a time. I went to New York to raise money for a social network I'd started with two business partners. And then I was kind of DJing with like a software DJ program and got offered some DJ work at some clubs in Lower East Side and told my mate and then came back and we started a duo, and the rest is history. Things moved pretty quick.
What was it? Wait a minute. You went to New York to some charity?
Well, no, I went to New York to raise money. This is just when the subprime mortgage crisis hit, and the same year that Michael Jackson had died. In fact, he died while I was in New York. And
2000 and
something.
9?
9, yeah,
10?
no, 11, 12,
11?
I think.
All right.
I think.
Okay.
I was 24, so I'm 36. That's 12 years ago.
Now we got that out.
Yeah.
You're 36.
So 12 years ago, though, because I was 24 when I went.
That was pretty young to be going to New York.
Yeah, it was. And I was...
How long did you stay?
2 months. And I was seeing investors and pitching them, but all the money had dried up, so it was kind of turned in more like a party. But I was kind of DJing at house parties that we were having, because I was living with a fashion photographer, so all these kind of trendy types were coming over. And
you knew them from before? Or how did you know how did you slip into the trendy part of New York? Because I imagine that would not be so simple.
It was an interesting story. I was on Craigslist and I stayed at a place in New Jersey, and it was literally like those movies in New Jersey. You had these like kind of 40, 50-year-old dudes with, accents, white guys, literally hanging out the corner of the store, the butcher store on the street.
And what are they hanging out for?
I don't know. They're just sitting there talking to anyone that walks past, like you see in the movies. And then I went, I've got to get out of here. Funnily enough, the place we stayed at was a relation to Obama. I think some sort of a grandchild, cousin, something. And I went on Craigslist and I found this place in Lower East Side, and this artist called Zito was living there, and we stayed there. And I met this guy at a cafe, and he said, "Live with me." And there we go, just around from Cat's Deli.
Right.
The iconic place in Friends or something.
All right. So, sorry, did you say how long you were in New York for?
2 months.
2 months.
And I was sort of DJing at the house parties, and some guys who ran some venues, different venues, asked me to DJ at their parties, at their clubs, not really knowing that I wasn't a very good DJ or knew what I was doing.
But you had started before then?
Kinda, on like a laptop. I wouldn't call that DJing, to be honest.
Is it,
it's more like a hobby at home. Laptop
DJ.
Yeah, it's like little decks on a laptop thing. And then I went back to Oz and contacted my mate, and then we started a duo.
Right.
And I wasn't actually going to be the DJ in the duo. I was going to be like the marketing manager guy. Right, but things changed, and
he was a DJ.
He was a DJ and super talented musician. His name's Mark Olson. We started a duo called Fear of Dawn. We got signed to Ministry Sound within a year.
Fear of Dawn.
Yeah, he recently played for Circle with his girlfriend in his duo called Double Touch.
Oh, okay.
At Omnia.
Yeah. Now known as Surveyor.
It's all come full circle.
Which we've played a few times on the radio here.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, that particular set.
Yeah, awesome.
At Omnia.
Yeah, so there we go.
So the Fear of Dawn, was it?
Yeah, we used to come here on we used to come every few months on a work sabbatical, writing tunes, getting away from the Sydney life, and we fell in love with the place.
But that was after a few years of being on the DJ mill. Yeah,
we did we were grinding and working hard and running parties and doing everything we could to further our careers.
And how was the scene in Sydney at that point?
It was still good. We didn't have the lockout laws yet.
Yeah,
things were good. We were doing really well. We were touring regionally and nationally. We went on the Ministry Sound Annual and the Clubbers Guide, and ticked a lot of boxes. Played at some of the big festivals, Stereosonic and Field Days and stuff like that.
And how was the scene like going out? Were you going out or were you just DJing?
We were pretty much just DJing.
You weren't sort of hitting it.
No, we weren't really partying. I mean, we would have fun while we played, but then we realised we can't do that every day because you've got to do it all over again, and it's not fun with a hangover.
Sure.
Yeah. So
what actually got you into electronic music in the first place?
Good question. I mean, I sort of, in my teenage years, I used to listen to hip hop and trance. So I guess the trance did.
Well, trance is a good opener, right?
Yeah, it was a good opener. The trance got me into it, and I think the wild compilations and 90s house crept in there.
Sure. That's back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah.
Well, trance is such a good way to enter because it's vocal. You've got vocals and it's almost classical music in many moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's easy to get a grip on it. So hip hop as well was pretty big in Australia.
Yeah, the hip hop was
years.
good then too. It was really good.
Like the hard hitting, gangster hip hop.
Yeah.
Did you imagine yourself being one of them, or like hip hop artist? Or...
Well, I used to be into pop lock dancing, which I guess is kind of breaks and a bit of hip hop. So yeah, I liked the rhythm and the beats and the tempo and all that kind of stuff. So I used to go out and battle people in nightclubs, which is pretty funny.
And live music, was it?
Live music wasn't really in my life until much later. Yeah, and even before I moved to Bali about 4 years ago, I was mainly spending time in jazz clubs, which was amazing. Yeah.
How did that come about?
One of my dear friends, Chris Arnott, who's also known as Friendless, we used to just go and hang out in jazz clubs and just watch musos do their thing. And we're talking about people that had played with the Beatles when they toured Australia. I mean, this I think was the 70s or the early 70s, and these guys were touring with the Beatles and being in their band.
All right. Well, even though the Beatles, were disbanded in 1969 or something, but
when was Sgt. Pepper's?
68, I think.
When did they
toured
do that
Australia
tour?
in, I think, 64 or something.
Right, okay,
so they're way back.
Would have been about then.
Yeah, they're
okay.
elderly by now, but maybe when you met, they're almost elderly.
These jazz musos were pretty, and that gave me hope that I can stay in this game for a long time.
Yeah. So did you start playing an instrument?
I used to play drums in primary school. I used to sing in the choir in primary school, and then fast forward, trance music, hip hop aside, got into obviously started Fear of Dawn, and then got into the producing side. Mark did most of it in the early days, and then as I sort of got more and more familiar with everything, started experimenting, and then got really stuck into it. And recently just bought myself a bass guitar for my birthday last year. All right. 36. We covered that, didn't we?
A COVID kind of thing.
It was a if I had all the time in the world, what would I do list?
Right.
Realizing that last year was that. And go, what are you doing with yourself? Because this is...
It is the time.
This is the time. There's no like...
Reset to the person you want to be.
Yeah. This is the time where you skill up. This is the time where you learn as much as you can. Because if you can't do it now, during COVID, when would you ever be able to do it? Especially when everything starts grinding really quite fast again. Yeah.
It was a perfect opportunity to find out where you're at and do something about it.
Yeah.
So you're going to become a bass guitarist?
I don't know. I mean, I play a lot of my bass lines as is on the keyboard in a synthesizer, like a Roland or a Moog type synthesizer, or just in general. And it's a different feeling. Like you watch all the keyboardists that play bass with their left hand, and they're funk, and it's just really amazing. And I went, I'm not good with the left coordination. It's going to take a long time. And playing bass with a bass guitar, although I'm so rudimentary and such a beginner, it's already changed a lot of kind of the patterns and the sounds and kind of the characteristics
on your recordings
yeah. So I'm starting to put my live basses in my recordings, which is awesome. I am editing.
Does it give you a different sound?
It does give me a different bass sound, a different feeling. Obviously it's a live instrument, so there is I'm trying to keep the integrity of it being live, but because my muting and sound control is a bit whack, there's a little bit of editing, but it just gives this kind of warmth
But the bass sound in electronic music is one of the fundamentals, right? Like the drum, bass, boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, my music production is a lot of bass line driven music. So, the bass line is what is almost the most prominent feature in the song, with the kick and the percussion sort of supporting that. And yeah, I mean, with playing the bass as well, it's helping me sort of further develop my tonal ear, like the pitch and stuff. So I'll listen to music and try to just play along in my bass as well, to try to, and also emulate and see what guys are doing that I'm interested in. I'm really super vibing a band called Carubin, this Texas trio.
And what do they play?
They play bass, drums, and lead guitar, and they don't really sing, so they kind of do backing vocals on their own tracks. And they did a Boiler Room set. A Boiler Room in London set, and they've been amazing.
And it's an electronic kind of sound.
Well, it's more like I don't know what you call them. You call them probably jazz, neo funk.
Well, I guess jazz also has a lot to do with electronic. There's a lot of improvisation, and the tracks go for quite a long time, similar to electronic.
Yes, and you have that improvisation, and you have in jazz you'll notice that each player will have their moment to have a solo, and everyone else sort of sits back and supports them.
Well, I guess that's different to electronic, where electronic's just kind of, okay, you have, what do they call it? The borrow bits from other tracks.
Oh, sampling. Yeah.
That's kind of like a little lead solo, isn't it? Like lead break.
I guess so.
But there's a difference between electronic music and live sounding rock and roll sort of music too, right? That makes a difference with electronic, and probably it's the reason why electronic's so strong now.
Yes.
And that's because it just keeps on going.
Yeah, I think also the like back in the day, to write music, let's say like this late 70s, let's say before sort of drum machines. I mean, synthesizers were sort of starting to appear in the 60s and 70s, but let's say before the drum machine came out, that was made famous by Prince and Talking Heads and all these guys.
The Roland,
the TR-8 and the 707 and 606. And the idea of that was so a musician wouldn't need a drummer, so he could just play.
Well, I used to do that myself back in
there you go.
80s.
In the 80s.
Or 70s and 80s. But I never thought, as I was saying to John the other day, I never dreamed of actually making electronic music. It was all about, live music.
Jamming to it, still had that. And so then you had the Americans in, Detroit doing hip hop and techno, different guys borrowing each other's equipment at the time. And,
and they all, I watched some videos, documentaries recently on all this, on how it all began in house music, and there was only X amount of machines.
Yeah, and they had to borrow it. They literally making different styles of music and at the forefront of their genre, and
everyone was sounding the same.
Yeah, this is how you got this kind of vibe. And now, like, the big difference is you had to have a band. You had to have a guy that you'd had to get along, right? You had to have people you gelled with. You'd have to organise time to jam together in the garage. If someone had a mum or a dad that would let you do that. Yeah, sure. Then you need someone to kind of mix and record and track the records. That's a whole nother game. And
in live music.
In live music. So now
it's gone to the blockchain.
Now it's gone to kind of the blockchain. It's decentralised. We went there. We did crypto. We got crypto.
It was before crypto.
But we worked in the blockchain, and we got there quick, didn't we? It's there now.
Well, the blockchain's now everywhere. And anyway, you'll probably be using the blockchain to get into the club by the time the end of all this COVID happens.
I hope so. I hope we use blockchain and we leave the phone at the door. Yeah, that'll be nice.
You mentioned that earlier. clubs nowadays, you're not allowed to have people, you're not allowed to have, you know, distancing or whatever the hell is going on.
Yeah.
COVID protocols. It'd be a great thing if they just took the phones off everybody, every single place they went to.
Absolutely.
Before you walk in.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you walk in, you go into the pleasure dome.
Yeah.
And
you're a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You find your old self.
Yeah, you've got to tap into your memory and look what your eyes are doing and remember that, and the smells and the hearing.
My memory card.
Yeah, it's quite scary because there is a whole. One of the things that I struggled with is social media. And
in what way?
My relationship with it. How do I use this for my career? How do I not let this govern me, but let me use it for the tool that it was designed for? You know, and how do I work out what is reality using this as a data source? Like, I'm looking at feeds and stuff, and everyone is posting this kind of it's your own kind of propaganda machine, because you can choose what you put out, right? You can put out you can have a rant, you can put out something positive, whatever, you know, you can do, right? And that's now a form of staying in touch with people, is like not even going, hey man, checking in, how you doing? You go, oh, that person's put up a post, they must be doing okay.
We're slaves.
You know, so and so's put up they look amazing. And
what about these guys?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this is one of Kaiser's big hits
of 2020.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a tribute to Frankie Knuckles, who is one of the godfathers of house music, and I basically I sampled David Morales talking about Frankie and how much he loved him, and threw in a lot of elements at how these guys used to write house music. I kind of copied the same methodology, and here it is. Yeah, got a lot of support from this record. So released on Music to Dance To, Nicky Nighttime's label, and lots of support from Purple Disco Machine and Claptone and Breakbot and Black Madonna, and yeah, the list goes on.
Well, we were just talking about this before, weren't you? Like the beginning of house music in the USA, in Detroit.
Yeah.
Frankie Knuckles was
Chicago.
more Chicago, yeah. So you were into that in the first place, into that kind of music?
Not when it was out. I got on the train pretty late.
No, but when you went to New York and that kind of thing, were they into this kind of music?
It was kind of electro.
Yeah.
Cool electro, like that kind of Ed Banger style, and yeah.
Like EDM.
Just before it got all noisy and big sound EDM stuff. Still kind of
tech house.
House, New York house, and yeah.
So what's going on here again?
Well, I did what they do, and I found an obscure vinyl record, and I ripped the piano, as you do.
Right.
This is what they used to do back then. And I sampled that, and sampled all the... It's just samples everywhere.
Yeah. Kaiser sample.
It's just samples everywhere. The bass line I wrote, though.
Right.
So there's a bit of me in there as well.
But this is definitely like a house track, right?
Yeah, super housey. Yeah, there's a bit of a moment if we keep it going.
All right.
This is kind of building up to the crescendo.
This is a middle eight or a big drop.
Not the middle eight, that would be coming later. The infamous middle eight. Do like some live clicking.
You've just put that on a loop.
It's a really good wine. Classico.
From Chile.
Chile, yeah.
Social media is like... do you get the feeling we're becoming the slave to social media?
Well, that's what a celebrity is, isn't it? They're a slave to their own persona that they've created, where they can no longer be themselves. They have to maintain an image for the fans, which can create a lot of unhappiness. So we've become micro celebrities in a sense.
Well, that's all it does, isn't it? It makes everybody famous.
Yeah, micro celebrities,
way.
and you're a celebrity when people know more about you, and a stranger walks off the street and says sorry about your dog, and you're like, who the fuck are you? You know, and they followed you on Instagram because they're a fan, and that's kind of what celebrity means. And it's how to use this tool that gives you happiness and doesn't, you know, the big point I was kind of about to hit before I decided that alcohol was the answer. Was
we all believe that, I mean,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is. It can help sometimes, especially this stuff is really good. I'm going to have to get some off you. How much is the bottle?
$2.20 a bottle.
Mate, that's unreal.
I get it, but you got to buy a few. Anyway, we'll talk about that later in the
That's unreal.
in the advertising.
This has been
moment.
really good. So with social media, it was about, like, I would call my friends. This is like full blown COVID time. We're talking June, July 2020, and I'm seeing these posts, and these are people that I love, people that I'm close to. I'll call them, and they are nothing like what they're projecting on social media.
Oh, right.
So I'm like, hang on.
What do they do?
If you had have said something on social media that indicated that can a friend just contact me and cheer you up, I would have done it. But I went the other way and went, fuck, they're
having so much fun.
They're having so much fun. I feel so dark or lost or confused and I don't want to ruin their parade as you do with a friend. You don't want to be a burden. You know, you want to kind of lift the vibe in the room. And
depending on how close a friend they are too.
Well, yeah, I mean, the people that I'm checking up on, right? People that I'm looking on, seeing what they're up to on using the tool, social media, right? Going to their profiles. These are people that I care about and I'm invested in and want to just make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and these are the people that I would spend the time to have a conversation and just go, how are you? And if it wasn't for
you don't want to bring them down.
You don't want to bring them down. No. So if you're not like in a good headspace, you probably won't call them. But if you knew that they just needed a phone call or a hug or a virtual hug or whatever you call it, you know, or just someone to check in, you'd call them and tell them you miss them and you love them and that sort of stuff. But because
people don't want to portray that.
Okay, so this is a good point. So I'm the same. If I'm not feeling good, I don't want to just put up this sob story on social media.
Which some people do.
Which some people do. For, you know, it's a cry for help, it's a cry for attention, or it's just them probably, you know, chronicling the behind the scenes when, you know, hey, it's not all good.
Yeah, but I can't really understand why they do that.
Because I don't think they know. Like, I was thinking, if I don't have something positive to say on social media, I just won't say anything. And all right. Little Sweetie, is the Beat still have a magazine? That's a very good question.
Is that a question?
Yeah. From Little Sweetie 25. 25 is my lucky number, by the way.
Little Sweetie is probably my lucky girl.
Well, there you go. It's my lucky number, your lucky girl. So, I mean,
we got to answer that question right now.
Is there a Beat magazine? I miss the Beat magazines.
I miss the Beat magazine. I miss the... We're running hot.
So that's quite competitive.
There's a reason why that is. It's happening, but I won't go into it. Okay. Look, there's B. Hi B from Red Ruby. All right.
Hi B.
And we got Mush.
Hi Mush.
And we got Little Sweetie 25. Is the Beat Bali still have a magazine? Yes, there is a magazine.
There is
online.
Right.
Which is a lot less than what it used to be. Yeah, it's raining.
Oh, it's rain.
Yeah. So the rain is never too far away on this island. Thanks for the question, Little Sweetie, but it's not about me. It's about Kaiser Walden, our special guest tonight. When did you first come across the Beat magazine?
Warung I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think. Look, it's. I'm shooting from the hip here. You know,
that's
put me
only
on
a new thing, but he used to come here years ago, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm a bit confused at that answer. I've known you longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you once in Warrungdua.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do an interview for the magazine at that point. Maybe that's why you remember it.
Maybe that's the connection.
Did you go out and party when you were coming up to Bali in those first years?
Oh yeah, we went hard.
Where did you go?
We used to go to Mint when Mumsa was there. We used to end up at DJ Cafe. sometimes. It's probably where we met. Where else?
That were good times.
The first time we DJ was actually David Willis booked us and we played at Sky Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
So
that story.
Mark played with a live drum kit in the big room.
Well, you probably wrote about that in the Beat magazine.
Probably. You would have covered it for sure.
The greatest sensation, the latest sensation from Sydney, perhaps.
Well, you know, we tried. We gave it a run. We had a good run.
Well, Sky Garden was pretty busy back in those
It was
days.
huge. It was absolutely huge. It was amazing. We played to well over 1,000 people in that main room.
Right.
Yeah.
The dome.
Yeah.
And they got all the lights and the...
Yeah, it was incredible. Really, really cool.
Was it do you remember what night it was? Or it was a weekend?
Friday,
or?
Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, the billboards were everywhere. It was
Right.
all, it was big in Bali kind of vibes. You know, it was good.
Oh, they're good days. What year was that? Got you again?
Yeah, I don't know.
2014?
I feel like I'm on my third life at the moment, you know. So it's that whole...
Anything before COVID seems to be so far
Well,
gone.
I mean, you know, COVID, we lost a year. I mean, maybe some people didn't, but it -1 to their age, and no one's none the wiser.
1 or 2, you know.
Well,
we'll see what happens this year.
Let's see, but you know, I'd really like my age to stay 36 this year, with my birthday.
I imagine being 36 for the
I mean,
rest of your life
if
would be okay.
everyone
too.
got involved and said, right, let's all agree that last year, let's all take that off our thing,
Yeah,
then
got
you
you.
know, it'll work.
just snip it.
Yeah.
Actually, but even though you're saying before how beneficial that year's been too, right? You know,
It has been.
the way
It has
we've
been.
had these
It's
choices.
been really good. It's been really good. I mean, I went through a lot of kind of mental health barriers where it's like, oh my god, is this kind of depression? That was spawned a lot from isolation. You know, and then looking at this, so you're isolated, right? You can't go out. You don't know what's going on. You don't know, you know, the goalposts keep moving because everyone else is trying to figure out, the lawmakers and stuff are trying to figure out, how do we handle this? Oh, we were wrong, or, you know, and that's okay. This is life, you know.
Yeah,
we haven't known what's going on in the nightclubbing industry our whole lives. There's been no such thing as job security.
Oh, wait a minute. Where were you when COVID first began?
In Bali.
In Bali.
Yeah, I played my last gig, which was Single Fin. I haven't been back there since. And I did a takeover that night on Dawley's label, Reptile Dysfunction, of that gig. And that was my last gig. And this was about this time last year.
Your hobbies when you're not DJing. What do you get up to? Or producing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is producing. So producing essentially is trying to make songs or experiment. So like I'll sit down and go, right, you don't have to make a song, Kai. You know, I just run this self-talk through my head. You don't have to make a song, but you can experiment. And there's a lot of fun in that because when you have time, you can take risks. You can noodle, so to speak. If you look up noodle in the dictionary, it will literally say, you know, messing around in music. It's a musical terminology, like noodling. When I'm not doing that,
I make noodles.
I eat noodles. You know, I love noodles. I love ramen. I'm a big ramen fan. New ramen joint down the road.
Which actually takes me to another question. You're half Japanese, right?
Yes, half Australian, half Japanese.
And have you spent much time in Japan?
I have. I used to go to Japan almost once a year. In fact, being in Bali, I used to probably go there long. I would be going there longer than I would Australia.
Right. Yeah.
My mum and dad are in Sydney, but I have a lot of family in Japan.
Whereabouts in Japan?
Yokohama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make good tires, isn't
They make great tyres, yeah.
and what happens over there? Were you DJing as well?
I did. I played at Ultra for Resistance.
Okay.
I supported John Digweed and Nicole Mudabar and Butch and Popov. And then I got to play an impromptu back-to-back set with Eats Everything at Woon. I was hanging out with Eats Everything and Charlotte DeWitt.
Was that all on the same trip?
That was all on the same trip. And then I went to go and hang out with them without the intention of playing. And my friend Charlie said, do you have your USBs? And I did bring him to the hotel because that was up in Tokyo. And Yokohama's about an hour by train. And I went, look, this could be a late one, so I might go up there because the trains finish at midnight. And then Dan, Eats Everything, turned around and said, do you want to jump on? And I was nervous as hell. And I asked the driver to take me back to my hotel so to grab my USBs, and I came back and It wasn't a very good set.
Oh. Did it matter?
Well, you're playing with I don't get nervous DJing. I really don't. When I'm in the booth, I'm so comfortable. But if it's someone else's set, no matter who they are, if I'm the guest and they're billed for this, I need to, the last thing you want to do is put them in a situation where they look bad. Where someone goes, oh, this guy's shit, or whatever, and it's actually me doing the mix, but they think it's him. People don't really know what's going on.
Sure.
When it's a back to back, they don't know who's doing what.
But what's a bad mix then?
It's just if people don't enjoy it. There's that too. The first track that I mixed, the fader went into the crowd. I went, oh shit! I hope Dan doesn't notice the little fader thing like you've got on went into the crowd because I did this flick and it just into the crowd. And
so when he comes on, he's going,
well, he's standing right next to me, so I've kind of picked the other one up from the channel that he wasn't using and swapped it in, but it was so awkward. And neither of us, when I say we didn't play a good set, it was a tough sort of crowd because, the guy before was kind of playing really hard music, and people need to feel the warmth, and so we basically started with a sort of a pretty depressing dance floor. We finished on a full one, and it was
Is
fun.
this a big venue?
Worm's quite iconic in Shibuya. Yeah. Carl Craig is their music director there. Shibuya.
Tokyo.
That's the crossing, the famous crossing.
I've been there.
Hachiko no Mae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so where is it? Is it a club?
It's a club called Worm.
Yeah.
And you literally, from that crossing that everyone knows, you walk about 50 metres up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was a fun night.
How's Japan nightlife?
Well,
and how's it been half Japanese and being in?
I love Japan.
In that world.
I think being a half, I am very attached to the Japanese heritage and history and culture. I'm not super plugged into all the traditional dates and festivals and stuff that we celebrate as the Japanese culture, but I take pride in kind of being half Japanese. So I probably put more of an effort than in my pride compared to the normal Japanese person. And in fact, I have these kind of deep chats with older Japanese people about this kind of, being a half. And I sort of try to take the best from being half Aussie, the laid back kind of she'll be right, fair dinkum mindset, and the Japanese kind of rich art, vibe. Is that right? I think that's the right. And mix them both because
very fancy
being a half caste, I can speak to elder Japanese people slightly differently, and they will listen.
That's in Japanese?
In Japanese, yeah.
And you learned Japanese from your mother?
I went to the Sydney Japanese School, and I did 1 year exchange in Izu in Japan, lived next door to a small volcano.
So your mother wasn't speaking Japanese to you when you were
ever since
child?
I was a baby, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so you've already had it somewhere in there?
I think I'm about a grade 6 in Japanese, my grammar. So if you speak to me, speak to the 6-year-old if you spoke Japanese. But they get the point.
The Japanese have always been very insular kind of culture, right?
Yeah.
How's it, that interaction? Like you're from Australia.
Well, if I'm trying to
they accept you?
Well, I don't think so. Probably not. Being a half, this is funny, and this kind of racism's really prominent now. The division, and there's this kind of real divide. But realistically, people are sort of more together than they kind of have ever been, in the sense that you can always find someone that's going through what you're going through. So the feeling of feeling alone and not being able to share the stuff that you're going through is kind of a little bit more less, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I think I don't think I'm seen by the Aussies as being full Aussie, and the Japanese don't see me as being full Japanese. So as a half caste, you're kind of in this halfway zone, and you identify strongly with other people that are half caste.
Sure. So
there was a documentary called Half, that did quite well, and documents about all the half Japanese out there.
Right. And they're, are you talking about half Japanese people or half anything?
In particular, in this case, it was half Japanese, but you meet a lot of people that are half all sorts of things, and quarters.
Sure.
Quarters.
Well, the quicker the whole population gets mixed, the better it will be for everyone.
Absolutely. Genetically speaking, better as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're in Bali, and you're a foreigner in in this
Bali's interesting
paradise.
because there's a strong Japanese
history.
not a good history. If you,
They're a little bit violent back then.
yeah. So but there is a culturally speaking. I see, a lot of food, and the language everywhere, and then obviously it's a melting point for Australians. So it actually is quite an appropriate place for a half Aussie, half Japanese. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's very much so.
Right. So
especially Bali's been over the last decades. It's been Australia and Japan.
Yeah,
and they've been the
Japanese were
biggest
the biggest tourism market after the Australians. It's now the Chinese, but I think the Japanese are number 3.
Yeah, still. But I remember back in the 90s or whatever it was, the Japanese and Australians were like this.
And so it's really fitting.
Yeah.
The first time I came here was 92. I was 7 years old.
Right.
And then we stopped here. My dad had a very close Aussie surfer friend who since passed away, but he had, he was married to a Balinese lady, 2 kids. And I was friends with the kids, same age, never met him since, don't know how to track him down. But, and then I moved to Japan for a year.
At that same time?
At that same time. So Bali was on the way to Japan.
You were like 12?
7, year 2.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when my Japanese went.
92 for me is like, I'm already...
You're here
old.
at Mints, on the dance floor. Little Poppy's Lane somewhere.
Yeah, down at Tubes.
I used to go to Tubes.
Surfing.
So Tubes, right, they used to have the laser disc, right? Used to watch movies on the laser disc. Tubes, right?
Yeah.
Had the big wave out the front.
Wave.
Yeah. We said that at the same time.
Yeah.
So
we love the big wave.
So my dad used to go to Tubes, and one time...
And your dad was a surfer too?
My dad's a kneeboarder.
Oh, right.
Yeah, from
we'll
Barron.
forgive him for that.
Well, I don't even surf anymore. I used to bodyboard, but
no, I don't surf.
He's one of the very few kneeboarders, and he I remember one of the times I went to Tubes myself, and my dad was shocked. It's like, how did you get here? I just told the guy to take me. At 7 years old.
That's the beauty of Bali,
right?
Yeah. You can do anything you want.
Yeah, but thinking about that now, imagine a 7-year I don't know. It's crazy. That felt crazy at the time. Like imagine if I'm, imagine if I got on the scooter and the guy took me to not Tubes somewhere else.
Some dodgy place
and I got shipped off to Jakarta or God knows where, they got the translation wrong.
I remember actually taking John, we were in Jakarta once and he was actually 14 and we're trying to get into Blowfish, I think it was. Yeah. And they wouldn't let him in.
Right.
No.
Okay.
No, you're too young.
Too young.
You're out.
Yeah.
But, starting early in the nightlife is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. I think the sooner you start, the sooner you get out of it, I think.
In more ways than one.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the really nice things has been the fact that I've come to the realisation I don't need to stay up late anymore. And I'm now waking up early in the mornings and going my little morning beach walks, taking my dog, or Adam's dog, who I live with. And it's been really good.
But that's not exactly the DJ hedonistic lifestyle.
Well, in Bali it could be, because you could just be doing sunset gigs. Bali to me is about the sunset. It's about the ceremonious vibe. It's not about super clubs. It's not about staying up late. It's about everyone coming together, watching this sunset that is absolutely mind-blowing, and people coming to, and the music being a part of this ceremony. And then when it gets dark, there's a bit of a dance, and everybody enjoys themselves, and you're hammered by midnight, or you're tired anyway.
Well, that's what happened in nightlife. I'm on the other side of the fence on that one, because before, this is only a recent thing, right? The big beach clubs and
it is. It's only it's killed it in a sense.
It's the whole thing changed with all these beach, fins and
all the big beach clubs. Yeah,
because that's what happens. People go out earlier,
get hammered earlier.
By 11 o'clock.
White girl wasted.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's politically correct right now, but everyone knows what I mean with that. It's not to just white people, but it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. They're just wasted.
Yeah, like proper wasted. And back in the day, it was all about the warungs. Have a nasi goreng. People that walk dogs can stop in and say hi to some friends. You can drink coconuts. You can have a few bintangs. Might get on the cocktails 2-for-1s. You know, and everybody's there together. And one of my things that I want to do when we open back up to the world is to get that going again. I think that's what this escape is going to be about. The sunsets.
Sunsets are good. They keep you healthier, I think.
Well, yeah, if you really get into it, the sun gazing, you know, pineal gland. This Bali that people come to changes, and you see people trying to escape, you know, the craziness, and the craziness follows. You know, I think it used to be Kuta, then it went to Seminyak, then it went to Canggu. You know, it's the same thing, just then you have these just black holes. Imagine if Kuta just stayed what it was, and people went, okay, that's where you go clubbing, cool. Canggu is where I'm gonna have my sunset yoga, cool. Seminyak is where I'll have my kind of restaurants,
sure,
sweet. But no, everyone just, you know,
well, it was kind of
nuts.
It was still, well, Kuta was definitely having a problem.
Yeah,
you know, identity crisis. Over the last few years before COVID.
But they have the infrastructure though. Kuta, if I was to start a nightclub, which I never would, if I was to start a nightclub, I'd do it in Kuta. It's near the airport, you can get traffic in and out, and there's a lot of good spaces there.
Except for the taxis that block the whole bloody
more
place
compared
off.
to Canggu.
Yeah. Well, Canggu's a little bit different, and it's a different clientele.
Well, yeah, that's a different clientele, but you got to think about you're not running parties for people in Bali. You want to run parties that are going to bring people to Bali.
But tell me about your new radio show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My new radio show is called Who is Kaiser Walden? It's essentially a podcast that comes out every Wednesday. We are going to do...
Every Wednesday? Every week?
Every week.
Wow.
I think I'm putting out a challenge to all the other DJs and producers in Bali. Guys, I have been away. I've had a year off internet, and I'm back, and I want to support the industry, and I love the industry, and most of the DJs, if not all of them, are my friends on the island. Right. And I want to see more mixes from more DJs here because there's so much talent on the island. And
well, Coup d'etat does one weekly, which we play on the show.
Yeah, but it's the coup d'etat thing, right?
But they do have it.
It's the coup d'etat.
They have one of their.
But I don't know. Like, any other DJ on the island is actually doing a podcast weekly.
Wayne Wonder.
Wayne is.
Sometimes.
I think it's sometimes.
Irregular. Yeah.
I think because I get Wayne's texts.
Yeah, sometimes.
I think, Wayne, sort your shit out, mate. Every week, let's go, clockwork.
Anyway, it's all about you.
Right.
How do you get your music
Wayne,
together?
Wayne's a super great DJ. Good question. So I'm doing a podcast called Who is Kaiser Walden?
Yeah.
And I'm doing that to kind of open sourcely ask your opinion on who I am, because I don't know. I'm having an identity crisis.
Okay. So people have got to interact with this.
Yeah. Tell me who I am, because I don't know. And I don't think I'll ever know. Right. So that's, it's the unsolvable, what's it called, a paradox or a conundrum or something. It's an unsolvable... In mathematics, they have a thing called an unsolvable equation.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And every week I do a show, right? And it takes quite a long time to do.
It takes a lot of work to find that music, right?
Yeah, but one of the positives of finding the music is, look, I was doing about 10 to 13 hours a week, maybe more. More of DJing Bali. Yeah. Right? So that's a lot of music.
You have to find music.
It's a lot of music. And I play from disco, funk, house to techno.
But I guess that's that has to be the backbone of being a DJ, right? You, like me, with the radio station and everything, the main thing I like about it is that it keeps you in touch with music. What other people...
I lost touch of music. I lost touch. I think my point... Look, yeah, it does keep me in touch because I'm looking up artists, I'm writing down the record labels, I'm writing their names, so I'm getting more... But at the same time, I don't get... Like, what I do miss is I get inspired when I listen to other people's work. 100%. And downloading music was this kind of laborious necessity for my gigs, rather than I can't wait to play these records because you're working so hard. This show has flipped that. Now I'm excited. Now this kind of doing these mixes are great. I'm excited. I get to support a lot of my friends. I get to discover a lot of new artists, and I get to learn about them. You know, I literally look them up on there, try to find out a little bit about what country are they from, which labels have they released on, and
well, I suppose how many shows you made? No?
5. Well, 4, but I'm going to give you one before I post it tonight. Yeah,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I was going to ask if people send you music as well, because I guess that at the end of the day, if you have a popular show or whatever you're doing, people start sending you music, which is kind of interesting.
I mean, people send me music, labels send me music, and DJs send me music
already from being a DJ, right?
Yeah. And I guess sort of being a frequent DJ in Bali, people want to try to get into Bali, so they send it to all the DJs, me included. It's not just me. There's a whole lot of us that get sent music from all around the world because they want people in Bali to play their tunes and to help to promote the work. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. So how many new songs would somebody be sending you a week?
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, on Saturday. On Saturday, just past, I went through and downloaded about 560 songs. Yeah.
From why?
Yeah, so I don't know why. That's too many. And
no, there must be a reason why you downloaded 570.
Well, I had a couple of gigs, right? And I don't know why. There's too many songs. So it's just too much.
Is that on Beatport?
Beatport, Track Source, label promo, mainly. Yeah.
570 songs.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
As well.
But the thing is
it a certain genre of music, or is it?
This is the thing. It's across 4 genres. It was house, tech house, melodic house and techno, indie dance. Because in my sets, I play as wide as I can go. You know, I want you to come and go. What my goal is when people come to see me play. Excuse me. When people come to see me play, they don't really know what they're going to expect, but they know that they're going to have fun because I'm going to create a feeling. And that feeling,
it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. And I guess I got carried away. I got carried away, and I will probably jump on one label. I'd find one label and I go, whole catalogue.
Give me it all.
Give me it all from the last 12 months.
Right.
Then I'll go on another catalogue, another label. I'll go on an artist and get all of his stuff that he's released in 2020, 2019, maybe 2018, it depends. I'm really frothing on Bicep at the moment. Who Made Who, another artist. Right. They are, to me, the quintessential artist. It's a trio from Copenhagen. Their balance of live musicianship and electronic music together. There's a bit of Zeppelin in there, and Floyd, and then they've got this kind of... It's just... There's so much good stuff out there. The problem is there's too... And to be honest, 400... Beatport releases 16,000 songs a day or something. Sure. So 400 in a day. What's that as a percentage of 16,000? You know,
wow.
It's not much. In the one day.
And how did that... 16,000 a day, that's a
crazy
crazy
number
crazy.
Every
year.
Yeah. So you know, that's let me just get this little guy out and
well, it's a lot of music. So what are you looking for? Yeah, okay.
That's 5 million. That's 5,800,000 songs a year.
How much of that song do you actually listen to?
Okay, so this is a really good point, because I assume a lot of people that run labels do the same thing when they're getting sent demos. Unless you have a relationship with them, they'll give you probably 20, 30 more seconds. I'm doing the fast forward.
Opener, first bit of banging.
Yeah, as soon as the bass line comes in, I always listen for the bass line. When the bass line comes in, I want to know what that's like, because that's really important for me. If it fits or not with the style, and maybe make sure there's no nasty surprises or unexpected surprises in the breakdown versus the drop. That's about it. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And that's kind of really ruthless. This guy has spent 5, 6, 10 hours, maybe a week making this song, and I've given it to decide if it's worthy of me playing it.
So what would you look for?
That is how
what would you look for?
Really good question. Do I connect with the bass line?
Yeah.
How does the song feel? How's it mixed? How loud are the elements? Because different music have different loudness types. They mix like so that's sounds a bit technical, but I like stuff that's deeper and not so in your face and harsh. Yeah, with the drums and the cymbals. Sexier, deeper, funkier. I like to make people feel sexy. That's my if I don't.
Don't we all?
Well, I don't know. Some people, it looks like they're trying to do an aerobics class, if you ask me, and make people move their arms this way and that way. Yeah. That's not me. I'm all for that. But for me personally, I just want to make people feel comfortable, no matter what situation they're in, to just feel comfortable, sexy, and confident.
Right.
If you're not if you're not feeling that, no matter then I'm not doing my job. So tell me if I'm not making you feel sexy.
Who is?
You're all sexy.
Walden?
Yeah, who is that guy? It's a type of feeling. So back to my goal of making people feel sexy and comfortable. Comfortable. You've just walked in the club. You haven't had a time to have your 4 tequilas before you went out. So if you're a bit of an anxious person or a flustered person, or you're just not on the level of the people on the dance floor, or you're not confident in dancing, even though you can dance, but you're not confident. My job as a DJ, especially as a producer, is to write music that makes people feel comfortable and want to dance. And I've seen it. I've seen it and felt it firsthand when I've gone, I don't want to fucking get on that dance floor, but whatever this song is, I can't stop. And think about Michael Jackson. If you listen to Michael Jackson, you straight away want to do the moonwalk, or you want to do the flick, move the shoulder. You feel sexy. You feel like MJ. You cannot dance like MJ. Right. Most of us, me included. But you try anyway because the music,
Have you tried?
Yeah. I can do the moonwalk actually. No, we're not doing the moonwalk tonight. That's another time. But I will do it for you guys if we get enough.
So what about the women? Women are typically
the first to dance,
feeling easy on the dance floor.
Yeah, well,
men are a little bit more awkward.
Especially Australians. Culturally speaking, Aussies wear, hold the beer, blokey. Europeans, I've discovered.
Boys over here, girls over there.
South Americans and European men, mate, they are up for it. They are, they're up for it just as much. And that's why, the music that I play and make is so much more adapt to them, because we've got Akadakas and Midnight Oil fans sitting there holding the beers going, I'm not getting on that fucking dance floor. Right. And when they do it, it's a footy scrum, Sure. But that's culturally speaking. We don't have, in Australia, there is no cultural kind of dance event. What do we do? As Aussies, it's, a blokey thing is not to dance. That's something that the ladies do, If you compare us to Spanish or
not just Aussies, Africans, the whole Anglophile,
Well, the Brits, but even the Brits had a bit of a dancing movement.
Well, they had, but
which filtered down to us. The Americans are probably just as awkward as the Aussies. The white Americans, anyway. I don't,
But electronic music actually created more danceability, from
if you call stomping and looking at the ground and kind of whatever danceability, sure. I love the blues. If you were to ask me what music is like moves you the most, it's blues. Right. It's blues music, and blues is essentially singing about love, women, romance, and
Black American
1920s
blues.
And think about what the Black American had to go through. You're told that you're not an equal. You don't have rights. The last bit of kind of sovereignty that these people had through the suffering was music.
Sure.
And there's so much pain in that. I mean,
but
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Let's keep it.
Let's keep it to your new show.
Well, yeah. Right. So the new show is the start of me coming back on social media.
That's right. You lost yourself, right? I remember I saw some interview you were saying that you were struggling with many parts of life with the COVID and everything else.
Did I?
Yeah, with Lee Stone.
Okay.
So so you brought yourself back, because I know you were really quite paranoid with the whole COVID thing.
Because I was so detached, I was reading the news, right? And I got really scared about the world is going into this kind of like free fall World War III. You know, being a history buff, you know, I looked at all the precursors to World War II and I went, holy shit, that's all happening now.
Right.
We're fucked. And that's like the ultimate
Well,
killer.
maybe World War One was probably...
That's the ultimate killer of an artist. Because then I'm like, what do I do? You know, what happens if
Culture takes a back
what happens
seat,
if
right?
you know 60 angry people with machetes rock up on my door and take my synthesizer?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can take everything else, but don't take my fucking synthesizers.
You're
You
done
know?
without your synthesizer.
I want my synths. So you know, these are the kind of things that happen when you're in isolation. These are the kind of things that happen when you take away human contact.
But why was it? Why were you so isolated?
Because I lived by myself. I've always lived by myself since being in Bali, and I'm a hermit, and I was relishing in antisocial behaviour, but that's not healthy.
Yeah.
You know, it's really not healthy. For an introvert and person that likes to be alone, they need to, as much as possible, go out and see other people. And
But
feel
you
connected.
didn't. I remember you didn't want to play out.
No.
No.
Why?
Why?
I think I had this kind of a reaction to like, I didn't want to be playing in this. Okay, so there's a fucking pandemic going on.
Oh.
I don't want to DJ and perpetuate this thing that it's all okay.
No.
Because it's weird. People have lost their jobs. People can't come here anymore. I'm playing music like nothing has changed.
Well, but you're helping people.
Okay, that's a really good point. And that wasn't like I'm helping people forget or at least cope with the shit they're going through.
People can get back to a bit of normality.
Right?
Yeah.
But I just could not see that. I could not agree with that, and I didn't feel that. So for me to even run that in my programming while I'm playing it as a rationalization felt like I was being fake. I feel great now that I'm ready to, whatever fucking shit we're in at the moment, I'm ready to be back and
get to the other side. So you got your show.
I got my show.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we're going to premiere tonight.
Yep.
It's your sixth show?
Fifth
Fifth show?
Yep.
It's called Who is
Kaiser Walden.
Kaiser Walden. And we've been talking to Kaiser Walden tonight, and I guess we've found out a little bit more who Kaiser Walden really is.
I think there's going to be some editing. We really went left and right.
Oh, it's a good...
I hope that some people got something out of it.
You know, whatever. If you want to... Yeah.
I had fun. We're speaking.
If you want
I always
to
love hanging
know,
out with you, you know.
If you want to know, anything about Kaiser Walden, we just spoke to Kaiser Walden for the last hour or more. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been a pleasure to be on the show. I am Team Beat. I love what you're about, man.
You were the beat dude, right?
I was the last beat, Mr. Beat.
Yeah. Is that your girlfriend doing the vocals?
It's a friend girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, girlfriend's very...
Are you single?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's a good way to be, right?
Not really.
Okay.
36, you should be looking at babies, especially if you've got parents. That you're an only child, but yeah, it's hard to give.
What is this?
This is by Alvaro AM from Madrid. This
All right.
song is called Noisy Communication.
All right.
From Alvaro AM in Madrid.
Okay. Anyway, we've been talking with Kaiser Walden. We're going to go out for the next hour and
14 minutes.
Hour and 14 minutes with the latest edition of Who is Kaiser Walden. Hope you've enjoyed the show.
Lovely to be here.
Right. Great to have had you on the show. I would say once again, it was the first time.
It is the first time. I finally got here because it's not in Denpasar.
That's a great track.
You're listening to Who is Kaiser Walden, Episode 5, exclusive to the beat.
And we're also going to be playing the Who is Kaiser Walden show every week, right?
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I would love that, guys. You can hear it first. Let's do it like this.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the beat first before I put it up.
Yeah.
Deal?
Okay. Well, I'm ready. I'll
We're
play
on
all
public
week.
record here.
Yeah,
We're going to put it up on Tuesdays before I put it up on Wednesday. So if you really want to hear it, you got to come here first.
What kind of time should it be on?
Tuesday night,
Late.
whenever you want. After
All right.
you're yeah, let's do that.